Reebok. The name might ring a bell, but where is it now? Once a giant in the sneaker world, it's impossible to ignore how quickly Reebok went from dominating the global market to fading into the background. But before it disappeared, there was a man, a visionary, who turned his grandfather's small shoe company into a billion-dollar brand. How did he do it? And what happened to Reebok? To understand how Reebok became a global brand and then vanished from everywhere, we need to go back in time, way back to when it wasn't even called Reebok. Instead, it was known as J.W. Foster & Sons, a company with a fascinating story of its own. It all begins in 1935, the year Joe Foster was born. His grandfather, Joseph William Foster, was a shoemaking pioneer. A man ahead of his time, he created spiked running shoes for athletes, including Olympic champions. The family business wasn't just making shoes, it was shaping the future of sports footwear. Meanwhile, Joe and his brother, Jeffrey William Foster, grew up in a world of shoemaking. By the time they were adults, they understood the business inside and out. In 1953, their lives took a new direction when they joined the military. Jeff was stationed in Germany, where he noticed something that would change their future. He saw the rapid rise of Puma and Adidas, two companies introducing innovative shoes and capturing the market. This sparked ideas about how the brothers could bring something fresh to the industry. When they returned home, they found their family business in trouble. Their father and uncle were unwilling to adapt to modern trends, and the company was struggling to keep up. Joe and Jeff knew they needed to take bold steps to create something new. In 1958, after much thought, they decided to leave J.W. Foster & Sons and start their own company. They initially called it Mercury Sports Footwear, but trademark issues forced them to rethink the name. Joe remembered a word he had once seen in an Afrikaans dictionary, Reebok, a type of antelope. This inspired the name Reebok, and their new brand was born. Their ultimate goal was to break into the American market. But there was one major problem. Giants like Nike and Adidas already ruled the footwear industry. Joe and Jeff knew they had a tough road ahead. Retailers didn't want to take a risk on a new brand, especially one based far away in the United Kingdom. For 10 years, Reebok struggled to make its mark in the US. They couldn't find a reliable distributor, and sales were slow. Then, in 1979, something happened that would change everything. Joe attended the National Sporting Goods Association, NSGA show in Chicago. This was a big event where companies from all over gathered to showcase their latest products. It was here that Joe met Paul Fireman, an American businessman who saw something special in Reebok. Fireman believed Reebok had the potential to take the US market by storm. He agreed to license and distribute Reebok products in America. This partnership was the turning point they had been waiting for. Together, they created Reebok USA Limited, opening the door to a brand new market. Reebok's first shoes were launched at a price of $60 per pair, the highest price for athletic shoes at the time. Many people were skeptical. Nike and Adidas were selling shoes for $25 to $50. So why would anyone buy a new, unknown brand for so much more? The risk was high, but Joe and Jeff believed in their product and their brand. They were determined to prove that Reebok was worth the extra cost. In 1982, Reebok noticed something that many others missed: the rise of aerobics. Fitness programs, especially for women, were growing fast, and women's fitness had become a cultural phenomenon. This new trend, fueled by stars like Jane Fonda, was gaining massive popularity in places like California. Reebok saw an opportunity to tap into this booming market. That year, they introduced the Freestyle shoe, designed specifically for women who were into aerobics. The Freestyle was a game changer. It wasn't just a functional workout shoe, it was stylish and sleek, something women could wear both in the gym and out. The design was minimal, unlike the bulky, flashy shoes from Nike and Adidas. It was more like a ballot slipper than a traditional athletic shoe. Reebok's initial order was for 32,000 units, but they sold out fast. The Freestyle quickly became a favorite among fitness enthusiasts and fashion-conscious women alike. By 1985, Reebok had hit a major milestone. Actress CybillShepherd wore orange Reeboks at the Emmy Awards, showing the world that the brand wasn't just for athletes, it was a style statement. Reebok had made its mark in mainstream fashion. By 1986, sales exploded to an impressive $919 million, surpassing even Nike to become the top athletic shoe brand in North America. How did they do it? Aggressive marketing strategies that targeted both the fitness craze and the lifestyle market. Reebok wasn't just selling shoes, they were selling a lifestyle. Seeing the potential for even more growth, Paul Fireman took the bold step of buying out the English company, moving Reebok's headquarters to Massachusetts, and renaming it Reebok International Limited. In the next year, sales surged even more, nearly tenfold, confirming that the US market was the right choice. With success in full swing, Reebok needed to solidify its new identity. They introduced a fresh logo, the Vector logo, to replace the Union Jack, which had been a symbol of the brand's British roots. The new logo was sleek, modern, and reflected the brand's forward-thinking approach. By 1988, Reebok had reached a monumental milestone, $1.8 billion in sales. It had officially become the leader in the athletic footwear market. Reebok had captured 25% of the market, and it was clear that the brand was no longer just a competitor, it was a powerhouse. Unfortunately, Reebok didn't get much time to enjoy the top of the leaderboard and wasn't ready for what was coming next. By seeing Reebok's success and massive sales, Nike knew it had to do something big. In 1984, they made a huge move by signing Michael Jordan, a rookie basketball sensation, to a 5-year endorsement deal worth $500,000 per year, plus a 5% royalty on every pair of Air Jordans sold. This deal was groundbreaking for the time and completely changed the world of sports marketing. Nike took a risk, but they were betting on Jordan's potential, and they were right. Little did they know, this move would redefine how sports and sneakers were marketed forever. But Reebok wasn't just sitting back and watching. They wanted to stay in the game and keep building on their success. Reebok didn't have the basketball king Michael Jordan, but they were smart about targeting other sports. The brand secured endorsement deals with two of tennis's biggest stars, Boris Becker and John McEnroe. Both were at the peak of their careers and gave Reebok a strong presence in tennis. But this wasn't enough to compete with Nike's success. In 1989, Reebok decided to do something innovative. They introduced the Pump, a basketball shoe with inflatable chambers that allowed wearers to adjust the fit. This was groundbreaking technology at the time and promised to give players better support and comfort on the court. The Pump became an instant hit, but what made it even more special was how it became part of pop culture. During the 1991 NBA Slam Dunk Contest, NBA player DeeBrown famously inflated his pumps just before winning the contest. This moment turned the shoe into a symbol, showing off its unique feature to the world. After Brown's victory, many NBA stars, such as Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson, started wearing the Pump, further cementing Reebok's place in basketball culture. Despite these wins, Joe Foster, one of Reebok's co-founders, retired in 1989, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the company. Foster had been the visionary behind Reebok's rise. His marketing ideas and product innovation had helped shape the brand into the global success it had become. But with his departure, Reebok began to lose some of the direction and focus that had driven it to the top. However, Reebok tried to release new products to compete, like special edition shoes endorsed by Shaquille O'Neal and technologies like DMX shock absorption, but these efforts fell short. Nike's dominance seemed impossible to beat. By the year 2000, the difference between the two brands was massive. Nike's sales were 3 times higher than Reebok's. Reebok, once a leader, was now being left behind in the ever-evolving world of sneakers. Reebok tried to return to its roots, but the world had moved on. People weren't looking for running shoes anymore. They wanted casual lifestyle sneakers. In 2005, Adidas saw an opportunity to challenge Nike. The German company had recovered from a tough decade in the 1990s and was now looking to take on Nike's dominance. Adidas bought Reebok for $3.8 billion in 2006, hoping to use Reebok as a way to break into Nike's territory. But this wasn't the game changer Adidas had hoped for. Instead of focusing on what made Reebok unique, its heritage in fitness and athletic performance, Adidas pushed Reebok in new directions. They introduced products like ZigTech, which promised to provide extra comfort, but it didn't catch on the way they had hoped. They also made a deal with CrossFit, betting that the fitness craze would push Reebok back into the spotlight. While the partnership gave Reebok a small bump in sales, it didn't help the brand regain its former glory. But in 2021, Reebok's sales had taken a dramatic hit. They went from $2 billion in 2021 to just $370.65 million in 2022. The pandemic, along with global supply chain issues, played a role, but it was clear that Reebok was struggling to keep up with the competition. While Nike was still leading the charge, Reebok was barely holding on. Adidas realized it needed to cut its losses and sold Reebok to Authentic Brands Group for just $2.5 billion, less than half of what Adidas had paid for it. Joe Foster, reflecting on the sale, said that there was nothing wrong with Reebok. Instead, it had been overshadowed by Adidas, which had much more power and resources. He believed that if Reebok were given the freedom to make its own decisions again, it might have a chance to turn things around.